How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be giving you a Resto Shaman guide for the War Within based off of everything that I've learned so far in beta. If there's any like big changes between now and, the 1 month before the season comes out with Resto Shaman, I may end up doing another guide, but I feel like I've got enough information now to basically kind of go through everything pretty confident with like the spec of the build and what is strongest. So if you guys are interested in playing Resto Shaman as soon as the season starts on, War Within, or if you actually have beta or want to get beta, with the pre-purchase or whatever, you are able to queue solo shuffles on beta, just not tonight for some reason. So this is the guide that I'm going to be going off of. So if you're, not interested in maybe some of the early things I'm talking about, you want to skip around, this is kind of to give you an idea of where I'll be at in the video, and to give you an idea on where I think Shamans are ranking right now. The 3v3 side is more of a guess, but I would say our Shaman is probably the second best healer right now in War Within. I think they still kind of have the same issue that they've had in the past, where basically if you're in a lobby full of melee, there's a pretty good chance you're going to lose to like Preservations, Resto Druids, Holy Paladins, especially, and almost even more so if it's like a triple melee one caster lobby where, the Druid can clone people off, the Paladin has Bop, the Preservation is just going to have more raw throughput and damage than you. But Resto Shaman, don't get me wrong, Resto Shamans are very, very good. I would say right now with these 5 healers so far in beta, not counting these 2, anyone is able to win a lobby. Like, you never go up against one of these classes and feel like, oh, this is going to be a free win. From what I felt so far, Preservation is the strongest, so Preservation maybe thinks that every once in a while, but yeah, Resto Shaman is very good, and I think it's going to be even better in regular 3v3 because you're going to have more time to actually be able to kind of like set up your damage. Maybe you'll end up playing like a different build. You'll have time to go for hexes. I think you'll have time to, cast Lava Burst. It's not going to feel like how it used to, where if you used a single offensive global, you'll fall really far behind. So yeah. Pros and cons about Resto Shaman. It's kind of the same old story, I would say, for the most part. You're very, very powerful into casters, even more so in this expansion. You gained more tools, but you've always been a little bit weaker into melee, whether it's just kind of being trained into the ground, aka train the blue, or just healing a caster, which is also being trained. We did get Static Field Totem nerfed this expansion, so it used to be a minute, now it's a minute and a half, so that's like one of the tools that you use to kind of like get people off your casters, which isn't as powerful. But we did get Gust of Wind back, which is really nice, and definitely, pretty nice to have this up early in the tree. The arms race for mobility is so high now, it kind of feels like you press Gust of Wind and people are back on you immediately. It almost feels like it doesn't really do much. It's still better than nothing. You got Gust of Wind, then you got like your little freedom with your Ghost Wolf, and then, after that you can, use your Windwalk Totem, which actually removes slows now with a new talent, which is really nice. It's almost like an old school like Windwalk that doesn't break roots. It's actually one of my favorite adds. So yeah, same old story. Good into casters, not so good into melee, but not horrible. I feel like it's not as bad in this expansion as it has been in previous expansions. Let's go ahead and go over the add-ons. I have it here on the list that the list will not be complete. I just did a guide not too long ago. So yeah, the couple ones that are on retail that aren't on here is Omnibar. I'm using Omnibar to track enemy. Oh, it's here. It just doesn't work. Okay. So yeah, Omnibar to track enemy CDs and like interrupts, stuff like that. And then Diminish. Diminish shows the DRs for myself and my teammates. But yeah, better Blizz Plates, incredible add-on. It just does exactly what it says. It's better Blizz Plates. You could customize everything you want here, nameplates, all that good stuff. Definitely go ahead and get that one. Big debuffs, very nice for seeing debuffs on your raid frames, especially for dispelling. Details is what we use to track, healing damage, all that good stuff. Frame sort, put you at the top of the frame, bottom of the frame, really good for solo shuffle. Omni CD shows your teammates' cooldowns. You can kind of put them wherever you want. I have them like on top of my raid frames. S Arena shows your enemy arena frames, and then weak Rs. I'll go over my weak Rs real quick here in case you guys are interested in any of them. Healing Stream Totem weak R. This is a, I get this one a lot, I guess. Here's the link for the Healing Stream one. Okay, so this link right here is going to be a full package of weak Rs. You'd have to delete a lot of them if you were not interested. But this shows Earth Shield and Water Shield when it needs to be reapplied, and the cooldown of Nature's Guardian. If you were interested in this weak R, you'd have to kind of like open it up and delete the rest. You'd have to delete basically all these, ungroup them and delete them. But yeah, that's basically it for my weak Rs. Macros, I haven't changed anything on Shaman in a long time. If you guys have ever watched a VOD of mine for Shaman before, it's going to be all the same stuff. There's not a single new macro. So I'm just going to go through these really quickly. Party 1 Dispel, at cursor static, at cursor earth grab. All my totems are just at cursor. It makes it a lot easier. Ascendants with like on use trinket badges, stuff like that. NS with, you know, same thing, badges, blood fury, whatever. Totemic projection with cursor. Target to target lava burst, so you don't have to change target if you don't want to. It's kind of nice. This is purge and dispel macro in the same macro, help harm. Healing wave, lightning bolt, doesn't really matter, help harm. Focus wind shear exists. I think this works, but this was a healing rain, lightning lasso macro.
Adventurers, we shall depart for the Dragon Isle.
No, we aren't. Focus healing rain. I don't think you're gonna really use healing rain in this expansion for PvP, but I made this a while ago when they like buffed the honor talent. Surging totem. Surging totem you may use. So cursor surging totem, dispel party 2, focus hex, focus purge, dispel self, shock arena 1, shock arena 2, shock arena 3. Stop casting in spirit link, stop casting grounding totem. This is the weak aura mark with Earthern that puts like the marker over. Cursor wind rush. Stop casting for wall, because I definitely died before trying to like press my wall when I was casting. Stop casting, sorry, cursor cap totem, stop casting tremor. I have 2 of the same macros there. Add cursor cap, stop casting tremor. It's just all the same stuff, and I just realized that I'm actually reading the same macros over and over because this wonderful bug where if you click a new macro, it takes you all the way to the top. But yeah, basically, I made a target player Thunderstorm because you can use a talent now that allows you to use it on your teammate, so I wanted to have a keybind specifically for that. But yeah, same macros as before. Nothing on our Shaman has changed, but if you didn't have any of those, there you go. Stat Prios on Shaman, same as before, man. You want as much mastery as you can get. What I will say is it does look like you're probably going to be skipping tier gear on Shaman. I've came to that conclusion because I just feel like even though the bonus is not bad, Tidal Waves increases the healing of effective spells by 10%, aka Healing Surge and Healing Wave. So in PvP it'd be 5%. And Tidal Waves is 80% more effective, aka, you know, the cast of Healing Wave, which is completely irrelevant because you only use it in Nature Swiftness, and the crit of Healing Surge. This is the last shuffle I did, and I casted 6 Healing Surges. So I can't use a bonus with terrible stats for 6 Healing Surges. I just can't do it. We just go for as much master as we can. The enchants are basically the same as they were before. It's speed on bracers, speed on cloak. You don't use the mana on chest and legs right now because you don't so you just use the raw intellect and then the raw stamina. The cursed mastery enchants takes crit and gives you mastery, and then you're going to be using the redistributes 2% of your health if you're over 80% health. That is the embellishment that seems to be the best. Embellishments don't seem to be that good. It did 4.2% of my healing in a shuffle. There's something else like a Dawn Weave or Dusk Weave that gives you verse over 80% health, which may end up being better. It's not currently working on beta, so I can't really test it, but it's possible that that is the move to bump your verse up a little bit. Gives you damage, gives you healing. So Spec, I'm actually really excited about the talents here. So they kind of redid the Shaman tree for the most part. A lot of this, like on the right-hand side, you know, the top end is basically the same, but we'll go over what's new. And I would say basically the right-hand side of my build right now, I think, is probably the best build. Reactive warding was a point where people maybe didn't take it prior, but it just recently got buffed. I think it's pretty good. So from a shuffle standpoint, I like this build a lot. If you were ever to play like rated 3v3, it's very possible that the haste could be turned into the cooldown reduction. This is one of the new things. What I like about the haste is that if you ever get an Ascendance proc, you also get the haste on that proc, which feels pretty good. But having a 2-minute cooldown Ascendance means like you can kind of rotate better in like rated 3v3 depending on the pacing of the match. So it just kind of depends on like what rated 3v3 feels like, but I think the haste and shuffle feels pretty good. This is a dead talent point, but you just kind of use it to take Primordial Wave. Primordial Wave isn't that insane, but it just lines up so perfectly with 30-second NS. Every Prime Wave equals an NS. Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem, after you use Mana Tide, you just get 3 free instant healing surges, not 50% reduced. The reason why this is really good is because not only are they powerful heals, but they also guaranteed put up Earth Living, which is actually really, really good in this expansion. Earth Living heals for 31,000, your Riptide heals for 20,000. Like that's definitely Pretty crazy. Spouting Spirits. You can see Spouting Spirits is not... It's not too crazy. As a matter of fact, it honestly didn't look like it was very good at all in this... I must not have used Link that much in this shuffle, but basically a single hit of it averaged for 452k, topped at like 600k. You maybe are not going to end up taking this talent. This could be one that could be swapped, but it kind of feels nice having Spirit Link feel like it gives a little bit of an extra kick. I personally have felt Spirit Link has been bad for a very long time. It kind of, like, I used to joke and say AoE kill your whole team instead of, like, you know, AoE top your team. So being able to get health back on everyone when you press it feels pretty good. This was bugged for a while and wasn't affected by, like, dampening, so that's probably why I might think it's better than it actually is. Other than that, yeah, reactive warding allows you to heal from reapplying Earth Shield. You can see for how much it feels pretty nice, 124,000. So if you're missing 10 stacks of Earth Shield, you just heal for 1 million, and it does scale with Mastery. You can see my health pool right here is 6 million, so almost 20% of your health from just reapplying Earth Shield. But yeah, I would say that this is probably the best spec on the right-hand side. Ancestral Awakening, even though it got buffed, is just still not quite good enough. Dude, please be quiet. Left-hand side, you can see that Gust of Wind is now much more obtainable. Windrush Totem used to be useless. I would not take this talent if it wasn't for the second part, but basically when you drop Windrush Totem, it spam removes slows, which makes it feel pretty good, in my opinion. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I use it as like a little like utility spell. So this is like one of my favorite adds. Oh, this is new. This used to be a PvP talent. And this allows you to use Thunderstorm on your teammates. This is really nice. I basically play this every game. If you fight casters, it's definitely possible that you could like take this off. It's one of the points that are like a flexible point. Believe it or not, Ancestral Guidance is pretty bad. 2% healing for one talent. I mean, that could be a flexible point if you want. I also use like Enhanced Imbues as a flexible point. But if you were like wanting to get Seasoned Winds, you could drop some stuff like this, and this also gives damage reduction. This is really good versus like Frost Mages, Boomkins, Destro Warlocks, Devastation. Anything that does Fire, Frost, or Nature, you should probably be playing Elemental Resistance. It's just free damage reduction. You can't really beat it. Stone Bulwark is very good. Last I checked, this was not affected by dampening. It probably will be at some point, but just something to keep in mind is that it's pretty OP. You can't reset it anymore, but it's a pretty big shield. And then Poison Cleansing, I assume that you're still going to want to use this with you're going to want to use this against Rogue. So kind of your flex points. I wonder if Nature Resist is actually good versus Rogue. I'd have to see their damage breakdown, but it's possible Deadly Poison does enough to make it worthwhile versus them. Maybe Deadly Poison's not that much, but yeah. Those are your flex points here. This, and maybe if you really feel like you need it, like Ancestral Guidance. I don't really think it's that crazy. But yeah, like if you're getting trained and you want to get like Earth Elemental or something, you know. Also, Primordial is actually kind of sick too. We have one more talent we could take out for that. Maybe like Ancestral Guidance, like I said. So yeah, you got a couple flex points on the left-hand side of the tree. But yeah, same talent points essentially as before with a couple new ones. But they are much better placed. Same honor talents as always. Burrow is going to be used if you're kind of like getting trained, you feel like you need it. I personally like it versus like Frost Decays. Other than that, I don't really use it that much. Maybe it's good versus like a Ret Warrior or something that's like training into the ground. Totem of Wrath always procs to your Primordial now. This could definitely be good if you're playing with like casters. You just kind of Primordial on CD, so every 30 seconds they're just going to be getting the benefit of that crit. Counter-Strike Totem I've actually had be very fucking overpowered in a shuffle. If people are brain dead, this thing does a lot of damage, so if you're low rated, you could definitely abuse some people with Counter-Strike. Electrocute just recently got buffed. 100,000 damage over 3 seconds doesn't sound that good. Let me just take a look at one of my other damaging spells. I mean, this is 300,000 damage. Yeah, just without even a crit. It's just no damage, man. This thing has not been good since Legion. It probably needs to be 300,000 damage or something. Like, it's just, yeah, it's, that thing is just garbage. Rain Dance you will play if you play Totemic. It reduces the mana cost of Surging Totem. It's basically a must-have if you're playing Surging Totem. Unleash Shield is better than it used to be based on the fact that if you were ever getting trained, your Water Shield fell off so frequently that it felt like you couldn't press Unleash Shield as much as you wanted to because you were, like, globals behind. I still don't use it that often. I kind of play with, like, these main three. I'm trying to think if I ever... Yeah, no, I really only play with these main three. Sometimes I'll drop Static for Burrow if I'm, like, fighting a Frost Decay or something. But they just got nerfed really hard, so you're probably not going to see any of them. Blizzard, make sure they took care of those before, you know, TWW at least. All the bugs, no problem. Frost Decay's one-shotting people. Gotta make sure that doesn't happen. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Farseer. Farseer is the better of the two. I don't think Totemic's bad, and I think there could be a place for it. I think overall Farseer is better. Ancestors have a 20% chance to proc themselves. Riptide has a 15% chance to proc an Ancestor. When Ancestors are called, they reduce the cooldown of your Riptide. You get a third charge of Riptide. This whole tree just synergizes super well, and it's just insane. So 3 charges extra Verse Shield, 25% more. Or you could play Stronger Nature's Guardian, which could be good versus like a RMP, for example. Or, you know, Rogue Mage, for example. That's just like kind of training or doing big swaps on you. Reduces the cooldown of NG and makes you heal for more. It's pretty nice in stun defense. Hydro Bubble, whenever your guys go away, they just put up this shield. And let me tell you, the shield's pretty freaking good. Alright, Hydro Bubble. Alright, you see my number 2 here. My number 2 healing here is Healing Surge. Guess again. It's my Ancestors. The boys. So essentially your number 1 heal while you're playing Farseer is your Ancestors. I think Hydro Bubble might not be affected by Damp right now, so it's possible it does get nerfed. And then also I think your Ancestors Chain Heal. So yeah. Your Ancestors Chain Heal if you drop a Healing Stream or a Healing Tide or a Healing Rain. But I think the range on it's pretty small, so it doesn't really do that much, and the heal in general is not that bad, but it's just a little extra something. But yeah, your homies heal. NS is a 30-second CD, so basically every Prime Wave is an NS. You're almost going to be shoving it on CD, literally just for the Ancestor. Unleash on CD, literally just for the Ancestor. Spam Riptide, just for the Ancestors. And just kind of, you know, let them do work. It's literally just Unleash Riptide NS on CD. That is literally all the spec is. It's very, very easy. Probably even overpowered. Riptide, 140 Riptides. Oh, we love those Riptides. We love those Riptides. You should probably do 1 Riptide before you unleash. That way you get the 2-second CD benefit. And another thing I really like about this spec is using spells with a cast time increase the duration of Spirit Walker's Grace and Aegis. So there's definitely times in a game where I just start pumping our Mastery heals, and the duration doesn't go away. You see this? It just spam refreshes. And what I really like about that is you actually get 4 stacks of Tidal Waves now. So all 4 of those healing surges that you use in that Aura Mastery get empowered by the 30% increased chance to crit. So it actually feels completely reasonable to just do 1, 2, 3, 4 healing surges. As opposed to, you know, doing the 2 and then feeling like you need to Riptide to get your Tidal Waves back up. So it's kind of nice to have 4 of those. Generally speaking, it won't really matter that much, though. But yeah, Farseer is really good. I'll talk about Totemic. Totemic is also pretty powerful. The biggest problem with Totemic is it is a huge mana sink. Like, this ability is super expensive. 216,000 mana. Just so you have an idea of like some of your other spells. Healing Rain is... it's like 114,000. Chain Heal is like 115,000. So it's very expensive. So you definitely have to play Rain Dance if you play it. It takes it down to 118. Even so, I would say the situations where I think Totemic could be good is if you have a caster on your team that's just kind of sitting still and you know they're going to kind of sit in this Surging Totem the whole time. You play Acid Rain. If you play Surging Totem, you definitely always want to play Downpour. Trying to think about how we would change that. Like, this talent's pretty good. Maybe you just have to drop Primordial with this build. I'm not sure. Tidewaters is good. This talent's good. Acid Rain. Overflowing for the increased range is also not bad. So you would have to kind of switch it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this is just kind of like some of the old tier, like your totems do chain heals, which is kind of nice. And then your Surging Totem gives you 4 buffs, which are like really, really insane. Gives you a barrier immediately. And then it gives you... your next heal is like 40% faster, so you could do like a really fast healing wave if you wanted. And then it gives you your next chain heal, puts up a Earth Living at 150% effectiveness, but it could proc from your totem. So you use a totem and you put up a fat Earth Living. So that's 47,000 Earth Living. And then your Riptide sticking for 18,000. So, like, that's a huge Earth Living. And then finally, the... I kind of like Primordial with this build. I would have to think about how to get it. Another talent? Oh, okay, we do have another talent. Maybe we can't drop it Acid Rain. But, yeah, the reason why I like Primordial with this build is whenever you use a Surging Totem, your next Healing Wave or Healing Surge is 100% more effective to someone else in the Surging Totem. So you use a Surging Totem, and then you could do like a Primordial NS, and it will heal you for a ton, and then it'll heal this person for a ton. And if you have like an Ascendance up or like Ancestral Guidance up, those healing kind of like bounce off each other. So it's like a pretty fat combo. And then whenever you press Surging Totem, you have, for 12 seconds, you can just cast a free Downpour, and Downpour does more healing with Surging Totem for some reason, based off the scaling. But yeah, so basically you just always play Downpour with this. It's just free healing. But yeah, it's not bad. It's just, it's mana hungry. I think the only way it's going to be more effective is if you have someone literally just super stationary the entire time. It's not super likely, and even then, I'm not even sure if it's better than Farseer. Like, Farseer's just insane, man. You just smash Riptide, 3 charges of Riptide. You can't really beat it. Healing Rotation on Shaman, very simple. You're literally just Healing Stream, 1 Healing Stream always down, Unleash always on CD, spam Riptide if you need to do healing, and then as soon as you feel like the slightest little smidge of damage, you just, boom, Primordial Wave NS. This is actually probably one of the easiest healing rotations to ever exist. What's going to be hard about Shaman is, I guess, having to deal with, like, the spikes of damage that, you know, test you past Riptide. That's when you're going to, you know, try to go for your Earthens. You might need to knock people. You might need to, you know, static people. You might need to fake a couple kicks and actually get some CDs off. But the healing rotation is really simple, man. Keep Earth Shield up. Unleash on CD, Riptide on CD. 1 healing stream should always be down, and then as soon as damage gets spiked, you Prime Wave into an NS. Pretty simple, man. Your ancestors really do the work. That's all there is to it, man. Damage rotation, it's just Lava Burst, man. That's really all you got, Flame Shock, Lava Burst. I think in Shuffle it's a little bit more difficult to do, but I think in Rated 3v3 you're actually going to have probably a pretty good amount of time to Lava Burst, and having 3 Lava Bursts feels pretty insane. But you also have Lava Surge now baseline, so you're going to be able to send out Lava Bursts, like, really, really often. I actually think that Shamans are probably going to be able to do some pretty fat damage. Oh, you can actually see I was doing Counter-Strike here to mess around with. I didn't even use it, like, the whole time because they started killing it. But yeah, Counter-Strike can do some crazy damage if people aren't paying attention, I guess. There's actually an interesting talent with Master the Elements, where if you were to do 2 Lava Bursts, it can make your next Healing Surge heal for 60% more. And I really like the talent, but I think the buff doesn't last long enough. Number one, it only lasts for 15 seconds, which it doesn't feel like you can, like, at least in Shuffle, it doesn't feel like you can actually maintain the 15-second buff to get the benefit out of the fact that you're going to use a Healing Surge, because you really don't have to use Healing Surges that often. So it just doesn't really end up feeling like it's that great. If you have to Healing Surge more often, but you also find yourself Lava Bursting a lot, this could be good, because it's going to help you put up more Flame Shocks and then maybe even get more Lava Bursts. But yeah, right now, I don't think it's worth it. Also, what I was going to say is, yeah, if you ever need, like, another mana talent, too, you could spec into Resurgence as well. It's definitely an option. Cooldown Rotation, I would imagine it's probably the same as what it's always been. Nothing really has changed. You've gained a new defensive with Stone Bulwark Totem. I don't mind using that one, like, after Astral Shift, because it's a longer CD, and I feel like normally if you use a shorter CD into the longer CD, you have a better chance of rotating, because the shorter CD will be back up. So I'll normally use Wall before it. But in terms of just, like, regular cooldown rotation, it's basically going to be the same thing at the start of the game, where you're just, like, putting down your Earthen, you're putting down your Stream. What I will say is that into a lot of classes, I've been resetting my static with double reset. So, like, I'll just do, like, a static into an Earthen into a reset. If, like, it's like a double melee and they're getting hit by a caster. So that way, you know, they get static, I get my Earthen down, they come back, then I do a knock, and, you know, I just try to screw with them a little bit. They get back, and my Earthen expires, and I throw my next static, and then I use my next Earthen. So that's definitely one way to get people off. So this is going to be, like, your first line of defense is, like, your set of Earthens. Your second line of defense is probably always going to be your Primordial NS with AG. Your third line of defense, depending on, you know, situation, probably going to be Healing Tides, a shorter CD. It's kind of easy to see what I'm doing here. It's just kind of like you're going in terms of shortest cooldowns first, because, you know, now these ones are back up. And then, you know, your next NS, you could pair in with, like, an Ascendance Primordial. The reason why you want to pair, like, AG with Prime Wave and NS is because the healing that you get from them, so it's like, let's just use very simple numbers. So Prime Wave is, let's say your Healing Wave heals for 100, all right? But then it heals for an extra 40 and an extra 40 because you had 2 Riptides on those other people. Then you... Ancestral Guidance got nerfed, by the way, so it's pretty bad. But then you get 10% of all that healing into additional healing, so that'd be 180. So then you get an extra 18 healing. Ascendance is 80%, 70%. So, you know, the 100, then the 40, and then the 40. So you get an extra 70% of that. 10% was, what, 18? So it would be 18 times 7, which is almost another 140 if it was 20 times 7. 116 maybe. But yeah, so basically using Ascendance with those is like, and that's you could actually get like a third person in there as well, because you could have like 3 Riptides out. But yeah, so using NS with like Prime Wave is pretty sweet. So let's just say, you know, that's on cooldown, whatever. You know, then Link is generally your last line of defense, but this isn't like a you have to rotate your cooldowns this way. This is like the efficient way to rotate your cooldowns. Sometimes you can come out of a CC and you could have Link, or you could have fucking NS, you could have Healing Tide Totem, you could have all of that. And the first button you need to press out of that CC is Spirit Link, okay? So this is the efficient way to use your cooldowns. If you're not going to reset a static, by the way, it's just going to be Earthern, Healing Stream, reset into Healing Stream. So pretty standard there. Mana efficiency, keep Water Shield up. You know, there's really not much you can do for mana efficiency these days. If you're struggling with mana, make sure you have Water Shield up. Maybe go for an earlier Mana Tide, Spec into Resurgence, and then you can even try Mana Spring. Those are some of your options for mana. Other than that, there's really not anything you could do. It might actually be bad to reapply a Water Shield. It's probably bad, like, if you have a habit to just kind of, like, spam reapply Water Shield. It might be better to, like, let stacks go off. So when they hit you and you reapply it, you actually get mana back. Positioning. Shaman is generally going to be defensively positioned. You kind of just want to avoid CC most of the time. But you can try to get offensively positioned if you're going with, if you're going for hexes. Two ways you could kind of, like, be very aggressive with Shaman, which is actually outside of dealing damage, is cap, throw when it's about to explode, cast a hex off that. It leaves the healer like pretty defenseless. Or you could try to like get into position where, you know, you knock. Like let's just say the fight's going on over here. You knock, you do them over there, and then you like static, then you throw, then you root, and you get them out of position. You guys have probably seen that pretty often. And then in terms of utility, I mean, you got Purge. Lightning Lasso is fantastic. Like, that's definitely a good way you can set up kills. One of my favorite new utility spells that we've got, which I've talked about a few times, is literally Windwalk Totem. I normally Windwalk Totem, and if they move out of it, I, like, throw it again, because it constantly removes slows, and it refreshes that buff on them. So that's definitely a pretty nice one. Dealing with kicks as Arsham, I mean, this is a tough one to answer, but, I mean, generally speaking, it's just always try to be not predictable with how you fake. Some people are very predictable with how they fake. Some people are very predictable with how they kick. You want to just try to make yourself not have a pattern. The reality is at like lower ratings, it's probably something that people are not going to pick up on. But if you are looking to climb to higher ratings, you want to make sure, you know, you fake early, you fake in the middle, you fake late. You don't let people know. You know what I mean? You don't let people know. You don't always want to fake late. If you're always doing this, no one has to kick you, right? You're not scaring them, you know? You're not even getting close to finishing the cast. How to kite well and survive. This is definitely very difficult on our Shaman. It's going to be between, like, using all of your mobility in the, like, most efficient way possible. And I think the most efficient way possible is just basically shortest cooldown to longest cooldown. Someone gets on you, I would probably leap. Someone gets back on you, I would probably Earthern. This Earthern starts to expire, I would probably knock. that, you know, as soon as they get knocked, I would probably throw the static, maybe get a charge, maybe get a rush, throw them, come out of that, you got your Ghost Wolf, they reconnect to you, you know, you got a root, you got a leap. And then I will say that I think, generally speaking, if you're trying to kite melee, and this might end up being very bad, like if you have casters on your team, so it's something that you might need to work out with them. But kiting through the middle of the map, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if I go this way, you're going to take all of, like, the gap closers. But if you actually get out of line of sight, they might not immediately be able to use a gap closer. So it's kind of like one of those things where if you feel like the enemy team has collapsed on your pillar, and even though you're like surviving, you're kind of like screwing your like range DPS over, you may need to cross and like make them close that gap again, and then, you know, until they collapse on your pillar, start running circles around it, you know. Offensive, defensive, it's kind of hard to get offensive on Shaman. If you ever feel like you have free globals, it's very less likely in Shuffle. You can definitely try to throw out some Lava Burst. One thing I'll just say about Lava Burst, if you didn't know this, is if you feel like you have the time to go offensive, start casting Lava Burst first, Flame Shock second. If you Flame Shock after the Lava Burst finishes, it will still crit. But if you end up getting stopped on that Lava Burst, or you feel like you can't finish the Lava Burst, you don't waste your global in the Flame Shock. You don't Flame Shock first, and then cast a Lava Burst, and then get kicked, or you then feel like you can't finish it. So it'll save you basically one global if you don't end up getting your cast off, but you could definitely Flame Shock second, and it feels a little bit smoother. But I would say the most impactful thing Shaman does in terms of its offense is lassos, knocks, and statics. And then if you ever could get those cap hexes, like, it's really, really hard to defend against this. This is a really deadly combo. You drop the cap on yourself, you throw it right as it's about to explode, caps them perfectly into a full hex. You know, that is definitely a way to absolutely dominate other healers. In terms of compositions you can run with the Shaman, Shaman can work with anything. It's going to work with double caster, it's going to work with double melee, it's going to work with melee caster. All the traditional comps will probably work, but most likely, you know, World of Warcraft is about meta at the end of the day. You're going to be playing with those S tier classes. So unless there is major changes, Shamans are looking to be very, very good in the War Within. I hope this helps. And yeah, good luck queuing.
That's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely.